3 of my roster deep dive series, and in this one, now that I've talked a little about the theory and the introduction of how I approach the game, want to dive into actual teams. So I'm going to try to do one team per video to hopefully keep these shorter. This first one is going to be probably a little bit longer, but hopefully they'll get shorter. I'm not going to go through each ability or anything like that. You can definitely find guides out there for that from msf.gg, for example. But I will talk about why I put certain abilities at certain points. So let's talk about the Defenders. Probably the first team you should get. Really good in early game arena. Really solid in Alliance War, especially early Alliance War. Even in late game Alliance War, they're a really solid defense there. Can help you in raids all the way up through the early nodes of Ultimus 6, so pretty good there as well. And they're just a really solid overall team, especially early game. So, yeah. Also, one of the most underrated things about them is that they help you complete the ability block party event, which gives you ability mats. And ability mats, probably the second or third biggest bottleneck in the game. They also help you with the gold challenge, and gold is the number 1 bottleneck in the game. So you can imagine how useful it is to get those things at their max level. With the gold challenge, you don't need to be at 7 stars, but obviously having a higher power team allows you to complete the challenge easier. And getting that gold each time it comes around, which is 3 times a week, just compounds over the lifetime you're playing the game. So it's definitely worth trying to get relatively soon. Same thing with block party challenge. At the max level, you're getting 150 orange mats plus all the purples. And it's just like every single time it comes around, you're getting extra. So highly recommend getting them to 7 stars for that reason alone. However, because they're not the most meta team anymore, when they first started, Iron Fist was really bad, and they buffed him and Punisher to make them both better than normal. They were actually the second best team in the game. But since then, they've added so many new tunes, and they've fallen off the wayside. So due to that, they're not the most meta teams. You're not going to want to put every single resource you have into them, but you're going to want to level them 7 stars. How I would approach that is, there's probably 2 major ways to do it. You can set a threshold for every time you have a block party event. So the first block party event, let's say you've done it at 4 stars, then the next one you're going to want to do at 5 stars, or maybe the next 2 events you're going to eventually get to 5 stars, and then 2 events later 6 stars, and 2 events later 7 stars, something like that. Another way you can do it is you can keep leveling each one. Jessica Jones has 2 campaign nodes, Punisher has 1, Iron Fist has 1, Daredevil is in Arena Store, Luke Cage is in a Blitz Store, but the campaign nodes are the hardest ones to farm. So I could see someone saying, okay, I'm always going to farm one of the characters, so Jessica Jones first, and then once I get her to the next star, then I'm going to do Punisher the next star, then Iron Fist the next star. So you're always farming them, but it's only 1 node a day, so it doesn't feel like it's just taking up all your time. I like the group method better because it just feels like you're making group progress better, but I can understand both ways. Okay, that being said, we're going to dive into each of these tunes and talk a little bit about them. So let's start with Daredevil. Daredevil, really solid tune, hits like a truck, does a lot of damage, especially if you get high red stars on him. I do not have high red stars on mine, so he does not hit like a truck, so he's just not that good for me, but still really solid tune. The main thing I want to talk about is Throw Baton, which you can actually leave at level 4. I've had it at level 5. The main purpose of this is to get the counters up on your defenders, so it's not to do damage. I did it at level 5 just a month ago, just because I wanted the extra chain for the slight chance of extra damage. But you can honestly leave that at level 4. The basic, I did not take to level 7. It is a good ability when you do take it to level 7 on villains, but it's just so niche and so situational that it's just not a good use of your T4s, unless you're just spending so much money that you can buy T4s left and right. Passive, this was probably the 4th best upgrade on the Defenders for T4s. Was really valuable at one point to get that extra speed, is not anymore because they're not meta, so or endgame meta, I should say. So yeah, definitely don't spend the T4s on that. All right, let's look at Jessica Jones. Jessica Jones is a really unique Toon because she's really great in Fear the Darkness with her ability energy feeds for both on her basic and the Shake It Off. However, if you're not taking her Fear the Darkness, definitely do not level her to tier 13, because she's not really good for just in general for that level of gear. Jawbreaker is the only one I would really consider taking to level 7, because it just has the extra ability energy on defender allies. And this was probably the third best ability to do it on. But again, because they're not endgame meta, not really that important to do. So I would just leave it at level 6. All right, let's look at Luke Cage. Luke Cage, his main job is to put taunts and defense up on your team. So, beat up is honestly just not necessary to be at level 6. He rarely basics, so you could just leave that at level 5. That's what I would do. These little, decisions like this to save 120 ability mats that allow you to level up other tunes. Just finding out efficiency like this in the game is just micro efficiency is just better. All right, let's look at Iron Fist next. Iron Fist's passive is really, really, really good at level 5. In fact, it's the number 1 upgrade that you want to do for T4s, but since the defenders are not meta, would not recommend doing it to level 5, at least not right away. Maybe down the line, if they slow down on releasing new tunes that are really important, you might come back to this, but until then, you probably just leave this at level 4. That being said, at level 5, it does give 10% extra chance and 10% extra heal, and it just makes it, when the computer's controlling it, it procs like all the time. It's super annoying. The other thing I would do is probably leave the basic at level 5 for a really long time, eventually level 6ing it, but it's just not a huge priority to level 6 it. And I would definitely not do level 6 on the special. The 2500 extra health is just not that much. End game content, people basic for like 10,000 damage, so 2500 health is just not really going to do much. You can just leave that at level 5. All right, let's look at Punisher. Punisher hits like a truck. All of his abilities do a lot of damage, especially his ult and his passive. His passive is what makes us go and why I prefer him over Miss Marvel. Although Miss Marvel is better on other teams too, so like it's just between those two things, it's like why not run Punisher? You can actually do some really interesting stuff with this passive at level 5. Because you can run like an interesting Ultron team with defenders, and every time Ultron summons or his minions do their special, Punisher can attack the other enemy, and if he has offense up from the minion, then he does like 200% damage plus offense up, which is insane. That being said, it's a really niche team. Defenders are not meta. I would leave this guy at level 4 if I had to start over. So yeah, that's the basics of the team. Right now I have most of mine at tier 11, level 70, 7 stars. I would probably recommend, if I had to redo this again, to do them at level 60, 65, and then I would probably do tier 9 or tier 10 if you're using them a lot in your arena, but just leave them at that because there's so many better tunes to work on, and these guys will fall off pretty hard in late game, so it's just better to keep them at a lower level. The stars, though, they will be effective at 4-star in arena, early game arena, but you're eventually going to want to take them to 7-star, like I said earlier, probably unique in that aspect because of the challenge. And that's basically it for this team.